What is going on? Like, I mean, 1, 2, 3, and welcome back to another tier thing making video, where today in this episode, I'll be ranking my favorite main characters from the Dark Knight trilogy, which does include Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and then The Dark Knight Rises. So without further ado, let's get into it. Starting off, we have Alfred, and I'm just going to put him straight up in the best of the best, because this was such an awesome character, and I think Michael Caine, I believe that's how you pronounce his last name, did such a perfect job for Alfred. All the wisdom he gave to not just Bruce, but like, oh, I forgot her name, Rachel Green, I think. All his wisdom he gave to people was really awesome. All his quotes were great. And then the part in The Dark Knight Rises where he actually cried because he thought Bruce Wayne had died. That was a really sad moment, and it was just, he was such an awesome character. Next we have Catwoman, or Selena Kyle, I believe that's her, like, her name. And I'm just gonna put her in great because I wish we got introduced to her on like how she became Catwoman, because she got called Catwoman because like you can very easily escape areas just like a cat, because like she's all sort of sly and all that. She has like acrobatic skills, but I wish we maybe learned a little more about her backstory on like how she actually became Catwoman. Next we have the Joker, and I'm just gonna put him into first position in the best of the best, because Heath Ledger did such an incredible job for the Joker. Just everything about this version of the Joker was incredible. The performance, the acting, just the whole story, and then why so serious. I just love that part, like learning about sort of two different sides of his scars and like how he got them. The overall just story for him was really enjoyable. His whole sort of plan, how he actually turned Harvey Dent into almost like a bad guy, but sort of Harvey Dent was sort of on the fence a little bit still, and just everything about this performance for the Joker was really awesome. Next we have the Dark Knight version of Rachel Green, because in Batman Begins, the person who played Rachel Green was actually a different actress, and I thought that was definitely interesting how they actually did change it up. I preferred this Rachel Green a bit more better than Batman Begins, because we got to see her a little more in like the sort of political side of it, like dealing with criminals in like court and all that. So I thought that was definitely really interesting, and like how she had a relationship with Harvey Dent, and she was sort of still on the fence with Bruce Wayne, because she knew Bruce Wayne was Batman, and she was the only sort of female and sort of civilian apart from Alfred and Lucius Fox to actually know Batman's or Bruce Wayne's sort of identity. So I thought that was definitely really interesting, and I thought this version of her was a little more better than Batman Begins. Then we have Batman, and I'm not too sure on which version this is, either Batman Begins or The Dark Knight or even The Dark Knight Rises. So I'm just going to combine all those movies, and honestly, I thought this was such a perfect Batman for the Dark Knight trilogy, because his suits do change slightly, so I thought that was definitely really cool. His sort of equipment is upgraded, and just how he speaks, I think, is really awesome. Instead of just having, like, Christian Bale just sound like he normally does, he sort of has this sort of deep voice, and I think that is really great for Batman, instead of just sounding exactly like Bruce Wayne, because then, like, your enemies are gonna know you're Bruce Wayne, but, like, he's actually Batman. So I thought that was definitely really cool. And what I love about this version of Batman is it's not just like a secret identity Bruce Wayne does have. It's actually like another person, in my opinion, because he's a lot more different to Bruce Wayne, because Batman, as like Bruce Wayne, he really doesn't have any limit, so he pushes himself so much to just help people. So I thought that was definitely really interesting, and just learning about like his backstory was definitely great, how he became Batman. So I thought that was great. So I might possibly put him maybe in, I'm thinking, no, I'm gonna say third position. Next we have Bane, and I thought in The Dark Knight Rises it was such an awesome opening for the film, with like the whole hijacking the plane with Bane. Him as a character is definitely really interesting, because out of all the villains, Bane is the only one what has actually broken Batman, like his back and his body. So it's definitely interesting to actually see that. And Bruce Wayne versus, or Batman versus Bane, that was one of the most interesting fights ever, because there was like no there was sound, but there was like no music in the background. It was just those two punching each other and like sort of breathing very heavily because they were exhausted. Well, Bruce was, but I don't think Bane was. But I just wish we maybe learned a little more about him, like maybe some flashbacks. We did have some, but I hoped we got like flashbacks about like him training with Ra's al Ghul, like him getting sort of I think like that's how you pronounce it, excommunicated from the League of Shadows. Just him like training would have been really interesting, just to see how much like frustration he had and anger. And I wish we learned a little more about why he put on the mask. We did learn very slightly about why he did, but I just wish we maybe got a bit more of a better explanation for it, and even possibly maybe like the people in the pit, or like the doctor in the pit putting the mask on. But I thought him sort of being introduced to like the where he lived was in the pit, like his quote about "you nearly adopted the darkness, I was molded by it, shaped by it." I thought that was such an awesome quote, and like just those two fighting were definitely really enjoyable. So I might possibly put him maybe in second position in great. Moving on to Talia Al Ghul. This is actually the daughter of Ra's al Ghul. Now, I hope I'm saying that character's name correctly. Now, Talia Al Ghul, we actually got introduced to someone a little bit differently, because she did have a sort of stage name in a way, because no one really knew her as Talia Al Ghul. And I thought that was definitely really interesting, almost like a two-faced character, where we had this one persona for her, but then during like the sort of final climax of the film, we actually learned a different persona of her. I thought that was definitely really interesting, with like this whole sort of plan working from the inside, because Talia Al Ghul was actually working for Bane. And I thought the person who actually played Talia Al Ghul, the actress, I thought she did a really great job, because she had this really nice accent, which I thought worked really perfectly for Talia Al Ghul. Just everything about her was definitely really interesting, how she sort of what's that word? How she sort of made Bruce Wayne trust her in a way by doing a bunch of things. So I thought that was definitely really interesting, and like how she sort of backstabbed the Bruce Wayne, but then also Batman by stabbing a knife into him and saying it's the slow dagger, or something like it's the slow dagger what sort of does something. So I thought that was definitely a really nice quote. But I kind of wish we maybe learned just a little more about her, just like Bane, how we got to see her, like, I wish we got to see her train with her father, so I thought that would have been a really nice backstory for her. But we did see her escape from the pit, and she's like the youngest person to ever escape from it, and I thought the reasoning behind it was definitely really interesting, but also really powerful, so I might possibly put her maybe in last position in great. So I might put her in first position at the moment in good. Next up, we have Bruce Wayne, and I really enjoyed this character because he was a completely different person compared to Batman, because Bruce Wayne did have limits, because like he was out all night and he had to like sleep, and during the day he would sleep while in meetings at the Wayne Tower or Wayne Enterprises, and like he was a completely different person to Batman, which I thought was definitely really great. Instead of just Batman and Bruce Wayne being the exact same people, it really would be a interesting story, because as I said, Batman and Bruce Wayne are different people, and I thought that was definitely really enjoyable, how like Bruce Wayne, he was sort of trying to cope with being Batman at night, and then trying to be like a businessman and like run his company during the day, and like how he worked with Lucius Fox to get all his equipment was definitely really enjoyable. And I also really liked how he built like the Batcave in Batman Begins, and then like he told Alfred why he's gonna become like a bat and fight crime, because like he's gonna show his enemy his fear to them. So I thought that was definitely a really nice motive, and just everything about Bruce Wayne in Batman Begins was definitely really enjoyable. And then in the Dark Knight, I thought it was definitely really cool. We mostly saw Batman, we didn't really see too much of Bruce Wayne, but when we did, I thought it was definitely really great, because you could definitely see how upset he was when Rachel Green was killed, or like she got exploded. I don't think that really works. She got killed, and then you could definitely see like the inner Bruce Wayne inside of Batman sort of coming out. So I thought that was definitely really interesting. And then in The Dark Knight Rises, that was probably like the most time we actually saw. No, I don't think we actually got to see Bruce Wayne a lot in The Dark Knight Rises, especially in the pit. And just everything about that part was definitely really enjoyable. How he rose up once again. So I might possibly put him, maybe thinking, maybe second position in great, because sometimes he was like a little cocky in my opinion. Like he's like, oh, I have limits, but like Batman doesn't, and like when he sort of took off his shirt, you could see like all the scars and bruises on him, and like Alfred's like, you don't like something, you don't have limits, and you have limits and all that. And like Bruce Wayne, he was like a little cocky about it because like he knew he has limits, but he just didn't want to show it. Next we have Ra's al Ghul, and I'm gonna put him straight up into, I'm maybe thinking the best of the best, but I might put him maybe in maybe second, no, maybe fourth. Yeah, maybe fourth position in great, because it was really enjoyable to see everything Ra's al Ghul taught Batman, like all the wisdom he gave to him, all like the sort of interesting sort of fighting styles he gave, just everything about the Batman Begins training sequence with Ra's al Ghul was definitely really enjoyable, and I thought he was such a really awesome villain for Batman Begins, because he's part of, I think he's the leader of the League of Shadows, which tries to eliminate people by like causing chaos and all that, and sort of overthrowing them. So then like the people, they would sort of fight against one another, and then slowly and eventually it would go into chaos and Gotham would just be destroyed. So I thought that was definitely really enjoyable, and also pretty scary to actually learn about that. But what I really enjoyed was just how smart Ra's al Ghul was. Instead of just telling Bruce Wayne, I'm Ra's al Ghul, I liked how Ra's al Ghul, he actually had like two different goons for like pretending to be Ra's al Ghul, so then like Bruce Wayne or Batman really wouldn't expect it. And I thought that's such a really awesome cover in my opinion. Next we have Lucius Fox, and I thought this was such an awesome character, so I might possibly put him maybe next to Alfred in third position, because I really enjoyed this character, not just being played by Morgan Freeman, which I think he did a really incredible job at. I think just his bond with Bruce Wayne / Batman was definitely really great, just to see that, because he did have a really good bond with Bruce Wayne's father. So I thought that was definitely really enjoyable seeing that sort of comparison. And then what I really like was, instead of just Batman like finding all his supplies, making his suit and all that, I'm really glad we actually got to see Lucius Fox like have all the supplies and everything. And what I really love about that was, instead of just having like a really lazy reason for having all like these materials and like just weapons and like suits for Batman or like Bruce Wayne, it wasn't something like, oh, because we made it just in case. I'm really glad it was something really legitimate, like we made it for like the military. So I thought that was such a really great reason, and just everything about Lucius Fox was great. Just how smart he was with like technology, just everything in the Dark Knight with him was definitely really enjoyable. And then also throughout the three movies, because he had such a great bond with everyone, not just Batman or Bruce Wayne, but also Alfred. Next we have Commissioner Gordon, and I thought he was a really interesting character, and by far one of the greatest performances by, or what's his name, Gary Oldman. I thought he did such a great job for Commissioner Gordon, and I thought he fitted the role very perfectly. So I might possibly put him, I'm thinking maybe in that position there in great, because it was really enjoyable with him, especially in the Dark Knight when like Two-Face was going to kill his son, and like you could just see how frustrated he was at Two-Face or Harvey Dent, and like you could definitely see just how much of a performance Gary Oldman put into, I was about to say The Dark Knight, but Commissioner Gordon, and then just everything, including like Batman Begins, slowly sort of building up to Commissioner Gordon. I thought that was definitely really cool with like the flashbacks and all that. And then in The Dark Knight, I thought he did a really cool performance as well. And then him learning about Bruce Wayne being Batman, I thought was really great. Instead of just him learning in The Dark Knight about who Bruce Wayne really was, who was Batman, I'm really glad it was in the last movie, and especially like at that sort of climactic part where Bruce Wayne was going to sacrifice himself with like the sort of bomb and all that. and then he sort of reveals this really nice quote about a hero can be anyone, even like as simple as putting like, I think it was like a jacket on or like a blanket on somebody, and then that's when Commissioner Gordon clicked and he knew that Bruce Wayne was Batman, and I thought that was such a perfect ending to that. And then him like saying, "We know who saved Gotham," it was like the Batman. I thought that was really awesome. Next we have the Scarecrow. Now I can't remember his real identity, so sorry about that. And this was like the main villain for Batman Begins. And I thought he was a really interesting but also really enjoyable villain because he was the one what was causing all like the sort of corruption and all that in like the sort of lawyer's side and like the political side, because he was a lawyer and he was deliberately making like goons and all that of Falcone, who's like a real big sort of boss and all that, like kingpin in like drug dealing and all that, and like the sort of main sort of henchman sort of thing in Gotham. So I thought it's definitely really interesting how he had like this political side of him deliberately making like the goons of that of Falcone sort of making their jail time sort of disappear in a way. He was deliberately doing that, and I thought that was definitely really interesting. But then the part what I found really cool was when he actually did become Scarecrow with like his sort of scare toxin and like his mask, and I really liked how we got to learn a little bit about that. So I thought that was definitely really interesting. His motives as well were really cool, and like how he did spray people, and I thought it was definitely really enjoyable. Like we got to see like what the people actually saw once they got shot by like the toxin, and I'm really glad it looked all sort of creepy and just really sort of fearful in a way, instead of just looking just like all colorful and happy. I'm really glad it was like scary in a way, because like that's what the toxin does. It sort of like triggers your fears and all that. And I'm really glad we got to see like Batman. I'm not glad, it was just really cool seeing Batman get shot by or like sprayed by the fear toxin, and like how he told, oh, what's his name, Lucius Fox, to like come up with like a cure for it. So I thought that was definitely really cool, and it just added to the story for Batman Begins. So I might possibly put him maybe in, or maybe thinking this position there in great, because we did get to see small cameos of him in the Dark Knight, and then the oh my gosh, the Dark Knight Rises. So that was definitely really interesting. And finally, we have, I can only remember like half of his name, Blake. I think that's his first name, and then like his sort of. So, hope you guys did enjoy this video, because I really did enjoy sharing my thoughts and opinions on my favorite main characters from the Dark Knight trilogy. I would definitely love to hear what you have to say down in the comments below, your thoughts and opinions. And if you do have your favorite main characters from the Dark Knight trilogy, I would definitely love to hear that down in the comments below. And as always, guys, hope you guys did enjoy this video, and see you soon. Goodbye!